Multilinguals of Reddit. What's the best thing you've accidentally overheard in public in another language? I know a couple of Mexican men living in Vancouver. They went to a takeout sushi restaurant to pick up some food for supper. They were served by a very cute Japanese girl working the counter. They started talking about her in Spanish, with a focus on particular body parts and their attributes. When she handed them their order, she gave them the price in Spanish. Her parents were Japanese, but she was born and raised in Peru. Oh god, story of my life. There's a huge Japanese population over there and everyone speaks Spanish. Duh. So when one migrates to the States or Canada, most Hispanics assume you're just another Asian. Sitting in the back of a pickup truck in northern Thailand. Little kid, maybe 5 years old, looks up at his mom and says, "Mom, Mom, that big foreigner has white eyes. Is he a ghost?" I lean real close to him and point at my eyes and say in Thai, "Actually, my eyes are blue, but ghosts can have blue eyes, right?" He then buried his face in his mom's side, trying to hide from me. I had a roommate who was a person from Hong Kong and taught me all the bad words in Cantonese. Later, during family events with my uncle's Chinese in-laws, I got to learn that my cousin's grandma, a sweet little old lady who spoke no English, was swearing like a sailor at all times. Granted, I am led to believe this is typical for Cantonese. Overheard in a movie theater washroom accompanied by tears. Indonesian. "It's okay. It's just a little poop. I'm sure nobody even noticed. Should have laughed and walked out." So my mom is Norwegian. My brother and I were raised in the US speaking Norwegian and English in the home. One summer our family were visiting relatives in Norway and were browsing a little shop. I love a little shop. In a very small village. We happened to be speaking English with one another at the time. My mom noticed and got great pleasure from hearing the two shopkeepers freaking out about having to speak English to us. They were late teens, early 20s and were likely very proficient in English, but nervous about having to use it on some American tourists. Short straw shopkeeper approaches us. Very red-faced. "Good afternoon. May I please help you find anything in our store?" My mom, in Norwegian, "We're quite alright. Thank you." Her, "Oh thank God," and other flustered mutterings. It was very cute. I lived in France for a while and speak French fluently. After I got married, my wife and I went there for a week of vacation. Standing on the subway, I was speaking to her in English about what stop we were getting off and what we'd be seeing. I stopped for a moment and then overheard two boys right next to me, maybe 14-16 years old, talking about how funny it was when Americans got lost on the subway. No big deal. I actually think that's funny, too. Then one of the little prick looks at my wife and says, "Well, I hope he gets lost and leaves her behind, because I'd like to give her a good frick." His friend laughed, and then I turned to them and said, in French, "That's funny. I was just thinking the same thing about you guys. So which one of you wants to get lost and which one wants to get fricked?" A guy nearby just burst out laughing. The boys got a horrified look and went over to the other door. My wife asked me what happened and I said that they told a dirty joke about you, and then I told them one about their mom. Laughing guy then covers for me and says in pretty good English, "It was a very funny joke, but does not translate into English well." I love the inclusion of that random guy. Overheard a bunch of French tourists in Nepal discussing, in graphic detail, the diarrhea they'd been having for a few days. That is, I can't tell if it's a fart or it's crap. After a while they turned to me and my friends and asked, in English, where we are from. My friends answered, in French, "We're from the same place you are." And me,'s from Quebec. Their look of embarrassment was just delectable. The awkwardness was palpable. Man, sharts are the worst. Late to the party as usual, but here goes. I speak several languages, and this surprisingly came in handy when I was in London. Sitting on the metro, tube or whatever your lordships call it, I hear two Swedish girls bad-mouthing these two guys standing next to them, while the same two guys are talking about how beautiful and lovely the girls are in Arabic. Other than that, I love walking around Stockholm speaking other languages than Swedish and English, pretending to be a tourist. There is a remarkable difference in how people treat you and the things they say about you. Reading stuff like that really makes me wish I knew other languages. I lived in China and being blonde and white, people don't think I can understand Mandarin. I was walking into a coffee shop in Shanghai and I saw two old women look at me. They stared for a moment and said, "He has such a nice butt." It was hard not to laugh. I wasn't exactly eavesdropping on someone, it was more like I set up a friend for embarrassment. One time a Caucasian English speaking only buddy of mine was dating a Peruvian girl. He was telling a friend of mine and me that his girl always say things in Spanish in the middle of them having sex and it drives him wild. He asked us what is something he can say back to her to drive her wild. The buddy that was listening and I both speak Spanish, so I said, "While you are hot and heavy going at it, yo tengo una verga chiquita y bonita. I have a beautiful small dong." We both convinced him that he would be saying, "I have a beautiful large dong for you." After he practiced his Spanish line to perfection, he went on his way. A couple of days later I ran into him and asked him how it went. He just chuckled and said, "You're on, but man, in the middle of having sex I got so excited that I yelled, yo tengo una verga chiquita y bonita. I have a beautiful small dong." And my girlfriend let out a loud roar of laughter and asked me to repeat it a couple of times and she kept laughing. Then she told me what it was and to never ask you guys for advice. TLDR. Convince friend to say I have small beautiful dong during sex. I was on the Brussels tram and these two Texan girls, they kept talking about Texas, were being really loud, and at the end, one said to the other, "I wonder if any of these people can understand us," and a guy getting off the tram said, "We all can. We all speak English." Bizarrely, I hear a lot of Chinese people in China talk crap about my girlfriend. I'm Chinese and she's white, as if I can't understand it, even if it's in the dialect. Although I usually just yell at them a little bit and I don't think they're embarrassed. Chinese here, GF also white. Walked through a Chinatown to many disapproving eyes. Never heard anything, but the look on their faces says it all. I once lived in Holland. One day I was in the company of a friend, also American, and a few Dutch teenagers. Our Dutch was relatively good, but we'd only been in the country a couple months. The kids were speaking really fast and we were having a hard time understanding, but it was clear they were talking about us, and my friend was starting to get really frustrated. He knew that speaking English wouldn't fool them because Dutch kids learn English from a very young age, so he started speaking to me just like Boomhor from King of the Hill, saying stuff like "Thissa dan kids think thissa greets dern kids with a edifa." They were all very confused and didn't understand a word of it. To be honest, I'd be more impressed by someone being able to speak in a Boomhor-esque accent than I would someone understanding it. Heard two Spanish speakers calling the lady serving them a prostitute who smelled of crap. I did my civic duty and provided a translation. They were not pleased. Those Spanish speakers are pure scum. Well, everyone who treats service workers like crap is scum. I was in the Natural History Museum in London looking at dinosaurs and other related things when I heard some rather boisterous people from my home country, Finland, discussing the dinosaur skeletons. Some fat guy pointed at the massive dinosaur skeleton and then started to boast, "Oh, maybe his dong is as big as mine." It made me laugh, but then the group of them noticed me and started to talk about me, calling me F and homo. That took an unpleasant turn. Sitting on the tram, a mother and her cute daughter is sitting across from me. The mother asks her daughter in Finnish if she thinks I'm good looking. The daughter blushes a bit and tells her to stop. Mother laughs and keeps asking. Finally the daughter admits that I'm pretty cute. I have to get off at the next stop, so when I leave I smile and, in Finnish, bid them goodbye and hope the rest of the day is pleasant. Mother laughs a bit and I have never seen a girl blush that much. Should have gotten that number. Lies. Everyone knows the Finnish don't talk on public transportation. I understand ASA, sign language. I was watching two older women using ASA to have a conversation. These women were at least in their 60s. They were talking about the fact that one of the two ladies was seeing a new guy named Ray and talking about their last date and all. The one seeing Ray eventually said, "All Ray wants is a piece of my pea pie." The other one signed back, "Hazel, you better not say pea pie. There's a lot of people who know sign language and one might see." I love that the sign for hungry and the sign for frisky are very similar. It's fun to accidentally mix those up in conversation. I was at an airport in the Philippines heading back to Canada. When I handed my Canadian passport to the men at the check-in counter, they started making jokes about Canadians in the local dialect, which I understand. I added a couple of jokes of my own and got some very embarrassed looks from the men. My aunt had taken 8 years of French in school, declaring that she was going to marry a Frenchman. She was working at the Epcot Emporium when a golfer and his caddy came in, chatting in French. The caddy looked over at her and said, "Still in French, wow, she's cute. I'd like to ask her on a date." So she responded in perfect French, "So why don't you?" They've now been married over 30 years. AWW. That's adorable. I got on a bus in Bloomington, Indiana in 1983, and there was a couple in front of me. The man had looked at me and said in Spanish, "Look how fat he is." So I answered by, "Yes, and you're ugly, but I don't go around telling everyone." My mom works with a man from the Dominican Republic. He was helping 2 Spanish-speaking girls at his job. They were speaking in Spanish, thinking my mom's co-worker could not understand since he looks black. He fully understood their compliments about how helpful he was. That ended much better than I expected. I'm Filipino and I speak Tagalog. I was on the BART one day and there was a Filipino mother and her daughter sitting in front of me. The mother said in Tagalog, "I have to poop. Oh, I should have pooped before we left the house." Then she looks from side to side, giggles, and says, "It's good that no one understood that, huh?" But she didn't look behind her. After high school, I took a solo trip to Europe before starting college. I was in Amsterdam, sitting alone at a restaurant, when I hear Hebrew, my native tongue, though I live in the US. A couple of people at the next table who I notice are looking in my direction, saying it must really suck, eating at a restaurant alone. I responded in Hebrew saying it's actually alright, I've got a book so I'm good. We ended up joining tables, and spent the next day hanging out in the city. I like your story as it has a nice ending and you made some friends for the day. I listened to 2 Chilean police officers talking about buggering each other, male and female. Just to be clear, I was a diplomat staying in the country at the time and to their knowledge I didn't speak a lick of Spanish. I look very white. Think of your whitest friend. If they had a baby with Trevor from the whitest kids you know, the baby would grow up to be me. I listened with a dumb expression on my face for about a minute. There was a silence after my favorite line. "We can't do it for 10 hours again. My jaw muscles still hurt." This came from the woman. My major misstep, I saw coming like a freight train. I turned my head just a little too soon. They were standing behind my chair guarding the lobby. I had to know what these tantric mother effers looked like. The woman turned bright red and clapped her hand over her mouth. I also turned bright red. I stood up, opened the door of the office where our meeting was going on, and let myself in. I used my awkward Americanisms to make an excuse to sit in on their little huddle. That was the longest meeting of my life. I just love the idea of you feeling so awkward that you straight up walked into a meeting and just stayed there. There was this couple that got off a cruise ship and said in English, "I hope these dumbsy can understand us. I live in Canada." Backstory: I am a Russian who migrated to Denmark as a child, so I know Danish, Russian, English and some German. When my mom took me back to Russia for an Easter vacation, we sat at a restaurant in Archangel Square. Me and my mom overheard 2 Danish men speaking, very loudly, over how cheap Russian women were and that they could probably get laid in less than 10 minutes if they threw a $20 bill around in the general direction of any woman. My mom did not take that kindly, so she stormed over to their table, first swearing on Russian, and then proceeding to speak Danish to them and telling them not to disrespect women like that and they should mind their freaking tongues in public before she would make sure some huge guy would beat the ever-loving frick out of them. All in all, a great way to spend time at a restaurant. I'm a sign language interpreter. Once in a bank line I saw 2 deaf men in the line ahead of me signing about their recent sexual escapades. As etiquette demands, I let them know I was an interpreter. They turned all shades of red and apologized. I told them it was no problem and congratulated them on their good sex lives. 2 moderately attractive girls in their 20s, speaking German while walking in a mall not 10 feet away from me. Them: "We can talk as loud as we want about sucking dong and nobody will even know." Me: loudly in German and giving them a thumbs up. "You sure can." I heard two Brazilian women chatting in a nearly empty restaurant in San Diego. One said to her friend, so I told him, if you want to frick me in the butt, that's fine. Just let me know so I don't eat a big dinner. It took all my restraint to hold back my laughter, and as I left 5 minutes later I gave a boa noite, sin Horus. The look on their faces was priceless. Brazilian women are always down for anal. At least, that's what pornos tell me. I have a joke that's kinda backwards. My parents came to visit me in Chicago, and in their cute touristy fashion, they were looking everywhere and pointing at all the sights, which is fine and dandy, except my mom kept saying in Chinese, "Look at that, look at that." That translates into Nigger. When said really fast, it sounds like nigger. So there goes my short adorable Asian mom walking around downtown Chicago shouting nigger everywhere. So everybody who didn't speak Chinese overhears her unintentional English. Someone called me ugly in German. I told them to lick my butt, in German of course, and they just started laughing, probably due to the surprise that I actually understand German. It still hurts my confidence. I was in the airport in Frankfurt. A girl looked lost and she was wandering around trying to talk with people in English, but nobody understood her or cared to help. She was looking really distressed and said in Arabic, "Does nobody speak English in this country?" I responded, "How about Arabic?" I felt pretty badass. No, she wasn't hot. Sorry. If she were hot, I suspect more people would have suddenly spoken English. My sister was working in a store, and this French woman and her mother come in. The mother is absolutely trashing everything. "Look at this cheap stuff. How can they get away with selling it? Typical American trash. I would never bring this back. Blah blah blah." My sister, who is fluent in French, hears this but thinks nothing of it since the stuff in the store was pretty trashy. Then, Mama Francais decides to start trashing my sister, saying all type of terrible, mean things she wouldn't repeat to me. When they get to the counter, my sister rings them up completely in French. After asking them how they were doing and if that would be all in French, the daughter, who sounded like she was in her 20s, asked my sister how long she had been studying French, and she replied Kenzans or whatever it is that means 15 years. The mother ran out of the store, crying in embarrassment, and the daughter kept on trying to console, and my sister kept on a crap-eating grin and never stopped speaking French. I was with a friend in a train once. A man enters and sits across from us. At the next station, another guy sits beside him and they start talking about drugs in Spanish, transactions, usage, etc. Before they arrived, my friend and I were talking to each other in Spanish. Right after I heard their conversation, it was pretty loud. I texted my friend to only speak in English for the remainder of the ride. I did not want to let them know that we understood them. It was a bit scary. I studied German in college and can understand it pretty well. I've never overheard any conversations, but I did make a fool of myself when I went to see Hellboy 2 with some of my family. There was one scene that ended with a character singing a very slightly suggestive song in German, which wasn't subtitled. This came right after a slapstick sequence that had the whole theater laughing, and so it took me a moment, and my sister elbowing me in the ribs, to notice that I was the only one laughing at the German joke. I was in Berlin and overheard an American Southern couple who had apparently become confused at a train station. Gladys, where are the escalators? Still my all-time favorite. In Bonn I heard some Americans being very surprised and delighted that the train station in Bonn had the same name as the one in Hamburg. They apparently didn't realize that Hauptbahnhof literally is just main train station. Knowing a less spoken language like Hebrew affords me some funny situations with Israelis in the US who think that nobody understands them. I was helping out with freshmen move-in at my school, and caught a mother and daughter off guard when they were complaining about the heat and the smell in the dorm, and I responded over my shoulder in an attempted native accent that it gets nicer once all the parents leave. The mother wasn't amused. Half white, half Chinese here, but people usually can't place me. I've gotten Mexican, Greek, white, and a few others over the years. Lived in Taiwan for a few years and learned to speak Mandarin Chinese fluently. My parents taught at an all-girls high school. Imagine 8,000 plus schoolgirls in uniform. No guys around except the teachers and me, who was the same age as them. They would always assume I was a foreigner that didn't speak Chinese and talk about me. Fortunately for me, a very large percentage of them thought I was attractive and would yap away in Chinese right in front of me about this. I'd never let on. Just pretend to notice them and smile and start conversing with them in English. All students had to take English class, so all had some proficiency. As a result, it was enormously easy to date as many cute Chinese girls as I could find the time for. Not me, but my boyfriend is Cuban but looks like a gringo. Read. White skin, red beard, pale hair, and him and his best friend had been backpacking in Spain. They got on an elevator in a hotel at their next stop and were chatting to each other in English, and these women who got on kind of turned up their nose at them and then started going on and on in Spanish about stupid American tourists. So my boyfriend looked at them and in perfect Spanish said something along the lines of, "Excuse me, but do you have some sort of problem with me?" He said the woman was so embarrassed that he spoke Spanish she couldn't even look him in the eye and got off on the next floor. One of my soccer teammates was studying abroad in London in 2010. He and another one of my teammates went to Prague for break. While the two of them were in an elevator in their hotel, a beautiful woman walks onto the elevator. One friend says to the other, "I would do a line of coke off her butt." She look at him and immediately says, "I speak English." My teammates got off at the next floor, the one dying of shame embarrassment. I didn't hear a no in there. Being an expat who speaks a local language, I hear insults and stuff all the time when people think I cannot understand them. I rarely say anything as I don't really care, but it shows you how a lot of people are when they think they won't be held accountable. Example A. The internet. Slightly off topic. As an Asian American, I get introduced to my family friends as the American kid. I always love the look of surprise when people discover that I can understand what they're saying and that I can shout it right back at them. I used to help with exchange students coming in from Japan. We'd pick them up at the airport, take them shopping to get some essentials, shampoo, bedsheets, etc., and then get them settled into their dorms. Doing this for a few years alongside taking several years of Japanese at the university meant I knew enough to know some of the dirty stuff. Anyway, I remember these two guys that came one semester. They were friendly enough when talking in English, but they got pretty filthy when they spoke in Japanese to each other. I got treated to a very awkward discussion they had on my boobs. I tried not to give away that I knew what they were saying, but my Japanese friend that came along to help decided to be a brat and started talking to me in Japanese. The looks on those two boys' faces when I responded in kind said it all. Frick. Another funny incident was these two girls we were sent to pick up from the airport. We met them without a problem, and then while escorting them down to the baggage claim, one of them turned to the other and murmured aloud in Japanese, "Wow, look at all the gaijin." Gaijin being foreigner, but in their case, it really means not Japanese. It struck me as ludicrous. You came to the United States to study English, and you're surprised by all the non-Japanese people? Maybe it was culture shock, but we had a good laugh about it for weeks. Too lazy to make a throwaway for this, so a friend of mine invited me to go with her to get her nails done. She said the people were speaking Thai. I corrected her, seeing as everyone knows nail salons are all part of a Vietnamese monopoly. Anyway, I went. I'm a guy BTW, if it matters. And sure enough, the salon was run by Thai people. I said I was Chinese to them. Over the course of the hour we were there, I heard commentary as to whether I was gay. One lady describing the foul stench coming from the lady area of one of the other customers, and then speculation from the other nail ladies as to whether the customer's husband bothered touching her anymore. The size and shape of my friend's breasts, with further discussion that maybe I was gay but couldn't resist my friend's breasts. Whether an extremely obese customer who was there would finally die of a heart attack so she would stop coming back because none of them wanted to work on her nails. Further discussion on whether she would eventually require a mobility scooter, and whether in that instance they should get a narrower door so she couldn't get in. This is the worst one. They were constantly ribbing on this one nail girl. She was kind of quiet and looking away the entire time. Eventually I pieced together what happened. All the girls closed up one day and were heading across the street to a restaurant for dinner. Quiet nail girl stayed behind and said she was going to clean or something. Upon leaving the restaurant, they see that the lights are on in the salon. They sneak up and look inside, only to see quiet nail girl working on a customer. Except Quiet Nail Girl is sucking on the customer's toes. Turns out Quiet Nail Girl had a side business providing extra special pedicures. Whoa, that last 100. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.